Good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome you to the special council meeting of Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. And this is a reminder that no decisions will be made here today. There will only be information received from the public, which will go to budget deliberations for consideration. A couple of reminders for today's meeting. Members of the media may sit in the upper balcony at the reserved media table. All other guests, please take a seat in the first floor gallery. If that is full, there is overflow seating on the second floor in the Victoria Room, where you will be able to see and hear the meeting. We live stream the meeting on your YouTube channel, and the recording is available after the meeting. Because meetings are accessible to the public, video or audio recordings by members of the public is not permitted in council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. Thank you for your cooperation. Can I get an adoption of the agenda, please? Councillor Richardson, Councillor Warren, all in favor? And that's passed. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests on anything on today's agenda? Seeing none, should any arise during the course of the meeting, advise the chair and we'll deal with it accordingly. We'll move right into item 4, which is an overview of the Mayor's proposed 2025 budget for the City of Kawartha Lakes. CAO Ron Taylor and Director of Corporate Services Sarah Bokaboom will be doing the presentation. And anytime you're ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are pleased to present the Mayor's proposed 2025 capital, operating, water, wastewater, and special projects budgets this evening. We'd like to start by thanking the Mayor for his direction and guidance, the Budget Committee, who sat through many meetings getting the budget thus far, the guidance of the CAO, and all staff that have fed into this year's budget process. With that, we will now turn to the next slide, which is the topics and the agenda for this evening. Thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about this year's budget process and how it has been slightly refined as a result of the strong mayor's legislation. We'll provide a budget overview summary. We'll go into the water and wastewater budgets, the tax-supported capital budget. We're also doing the tax-supported special projects budget, the operating, and a little bit on agencies, boards, committees, and the reserve or the financial health of the city, and next steps and how to guide through what will happen between tonight and your deliberations scheduled November 26th. So on the next slide, we'll just start with a little bit of the overview of the strong mayor's legislation and the changes to the process. All of these items are complete. As indicated, the Budget Committee has been deliberating and they have presented their draft budget to the mayor. And the next slide is that the mayor had opportunity to review the budget, make any recommendations. And tonight we are here on the November 12th, which is the mayor's proposed budget presented to council, the public. We're receiving deputations from community groups. We are also open to delegations and correspondence. So the next step is that the presentation of the mayor's proposed budget and the deliberations that will ensue on November 26th, 27th, and 28th. The budget was posted to the city's website early November to fall within the 30-day time period. That is how we selected November 26th, 27th, and 28th. And that will allow such time for the public and council input to the budget. Next slide is showing that after the budget deliberations, the mayor will have the option to veto any council amendments. Council may then vote to override the mayoral veto with 2/3 within 15 days. And finally, the budgets will be adopted, and the 2025 budget and business plan will be posted on the website. If there are no mayoral vetoes following council deliberations, then resultant budgets will be adopted by default and as amended. Under strong mayor powers, here are some of the legislative requirements. The mayor must present a budget prior to February 1st. Again, we walked through the 30-day time period where council has 30 days to amend the mayor's proposed budget. So again, you have from November 5th posting until the November 26th when we commence deliberations. After council deliberations, the mayor will have 10 days to veto any amendments council may choose to make, and council will then have 15 days to override a mayoral veto. Conflict of interest rules still apply to the mayor and council, and a mayoral veto is prohibited on any specific matter where this is in effect. So that's been guiding our budget process this year in order to adhere to the strong mayor's legislation. On the next slide, Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk, you will find how to view the mayor's proposed 2025 budget. As mentioned, it's on the city website. We have some information in Jump In if the public wishes to seek any information from staff, and we're also having hard copies available at any municipal service centers for those who wish a hard copy. We're going to pause now and play a small video clip that is available on our website for the public. We have instantiated some new processes this year to engage with the public. We took a poll to ask what information our public would like to hear from us, and this is one such example that we're trying to engage with the public.
Here in Kawartha Lakes, we are proud to operate as a single-tier government. But what does that mean? It means we handle all municipal services without the need for an upper tier, like a county. This structure allows us to streamline services and ensure that everything you need is taken care of by one local authority. Each year, the city reviews the budget and sets the tax levy needed for the following year. The mayor presents the budget to council, and they consider public feedback before finalizing. It's a roughly $400 million budget that has three parts. One, an operating budget that allows us to deliver over 200 services to the community, including waste and recycling collection, maintaining parks and recreation centers, road maintenance, and much more. Two, a capital budget that invests in city assets such as building roads, bridges, vehicles, and more. The capital budget includes both state-of-good repair and expansionary projects. 3. A special projects budget that covers one-time projects lasting more than 1 year, including studies and plans. Our strategic plan focuses on delivering the highest standard of municipal service, always with an eye on protecting the environment. After all, without our birds and wildlife, Kawartha Lakes just wouldn't be the same.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk, and thank you to our Communications Division who took the lead on engaging with the public and these great videos that will be posted on our website. So now on to the budget funding overview. As mentioned in the video, we have property tax supported budgets, which are the operating budget, the capital, and special projects. That is borne by all residents of the City of Kawartha Lakes that own a property. On the other side of the graph, we have the water and wastewater and user rate supported budgets, which are both operating and capital, and that is borne by only those who receive the services of water and or wastewater. The Budget Committee was the new step in our process this year, and I would just like to take a moment to thank the Chair, Charlie McDonald, Councillor Tracy Richardson, and Councillor Dan Joyce in guiding us through the budget process this year. A very extensive and detailed review of all financials, tables, charts, more information than perhaps they care to have viewed, was undertaken with this committee over the months of August, September, and October. The committee ultimately responded within the mandate of the mayor's direction, which was a 3% operating budget. You will see shortly that we are slightly over the 3%, but generally we are within the mandate. We'd like to thank this committee, and they have done their review and asked some very excellent questions and input into the budget, and so therefore we are now here with you tonight. Thank you. On to the next slide. The city's budget always starts by taking our high-level strategic priorities and our strategic plan and all of our actions that are committed to in order to deliver on those goals. That is the premise and what we predicate all of our budgets on over the next 3 years, 25, 26, and 27. On the next slide, we'll just refer back to the long-term financial plan. It was last updated by a previous council in 2022. The city is still advancing several of the goals that were contained within that plan. One is to continue to build up the asset management reserve. This budget allocates $17.4 million into that reserve and ultimately funds the capital budget. We're continuing to address and make headway on a backlog of deferred capital project needs. We are reducing the reliance on debt for the state of good repair assets, or those that we own. We are preparing for growth. As you drive around the municipality, you see that growth is now here, and we are in a position where we need to prepare for that, both for infrastructure and for staff. And we are doing continual reviews of our service level definitions. The next slide depicts the priorities and highlights of this year's budget. For those following along in their books or online, we're on page 6 of the budget book that identifies the priorities of this year's budget. So one is to keep taxes affordable and thus adhere to the long-term financial plan. Another one is enhancing community safety and emergency services. So within this budget, there's a $3.3 million increase to the tax levy for citywide policing services. And that is in response to increased calls for service, increased cost of equipment and services. And under community safety, we are also investing large dollars in the paramedic and fire services. Another priority was to invest in health and well-being of our community. Under this priority, we are investing $15 million to commence 2 affordable housing builds, one in Fenelon Falls and one in Minden. We're increasing childcare spaces by 200, and we're addressing gaps in primary health care with funding for after-hours clinics, doctor recruitment, nurse practitioners, and more. Growth benefits all is a priority in this budget. Expanded property assessment over 2024 by our partners at Municipal Property Assessment Corporation have increased our tax assessment base to over $255 million. This generates approximately $2.7 million in additional revenue in 2024. Therefore, we're projecting a 2.7% growth rate into 25, and we have, through our future builds that are projected, both single-family, high-density, commercial developments, expected to bring in an estimated $3 million in additional supplemental tax revenue. These are numbers that the municipality has not ever seen before in terms of our growth. The next slide will walk us through what is in this budget, what is the bottom line. So the water and wastewater budget is within its long-term financial plan guidelines of a 3% user fee increase in adherence to the water and wastewater rate study. And again, only users of those systems are levied that amount of charge. The operating budget is borne by all property owners in the city of Kawartha Lakes. At the time of posting the budget on November 5th, we were at a 7.2% increase. On the next slide, I'm going to tell you how we are now at a 6.9% increase. 3.5 was for the general operations. That is now down to 3.2 with the additional grant I will roll out on the next slide. We are still 2.2% to address unanticipated pressures in our police services, and we are still 1.5% for continued support of the dedicated capital tax levy. The last bullet on this page is to let council and the public know that this is the final budget that will be predicated on the 2022 long-term financial plan. We will bring forward an updated long-term financial plan to Council Q2 2025. It has become evident that the 3% increase that was predicated in 2022 is no longer financially sustainable. So on the next slide, we are happy to announce that our partners at the province provided an increase over the time that we were just posting the budget, so end of October, early November, and they have increased our grant funding $427,000 above what we had included in the previous proposed budget. So with that additional $427,000, that now brings our budget down to 6.9% from the 7.2% that was posted on the website. Again, this would comprise of 3.2% operating, 2.2% for the city-wide services of policing, and 1.5% for the dedicated capital tax amount. If we now turn to page 273 of your budget book, we will commence the water wastewater section of the budget. I'll pause and give you time to turn to page 273. The capital component of the water wastewater capital is included on page 285 to 288. What this budget includes is a $21.86 million investment in our water and wastewater infrastructure, comprised of the various program areas. On the next slide, the trend is showing you that, as we mentioned earlier, 2025 is starting to prepare for growth. The last time we had a major investment in a water pollution control plant is the reason for the spike in the 2020 amount of $30.045 million. So again, the $21.8 million is starting to prepare for the growth that is being faced by the municipality. On the next page, you will see the capital expenditure by program area. So horizontal and distribution is almost 50% of the capital budget on this side. And then again, the other pie charts show how the remainder is broken up. On the next slide is the financing of this $21.86 million. We have some reserves that have been building up over time, included in the 3% water wastewater user fee. We set money aside for capital replacement. So we are able to fund $6.3 million from the sewer DC reserve. We are able to fund $4.2 from the city's own reserve. A smaller amount of debenture is occurring in the water and wastewater this year, and $3.788 is from a sewer reserve the city has been building up. We also like to thank our partners that have allocated the ISEP grant for $1.2 million of this financing source. And finally, the next slide walks us through the operating budget. So we have been set a budget of 25.9 in 2024, and that is going up to 27.44 million in 2025. That ends the water wastewater component of the budget. We will now talk about the tax-supported capital budget, which is on page 38 of your budget book, or for those following along online, page 38 of the interactive budget book. In summary, the city's investing $128 million in capital spending this year. Of that $128 million, $68.9 million is our state of good repair. Again, those assets that we own, and 58.7 in expansionary. So again, preparing for the growth that the municipality is facing. We recognize this budget includes an unprecedented amount of capital budget, and it is here upon us now that the growing community requires this investment. Of the $127.5 million in the 2025 graph, 41% is for roads and bridges, 44% is for facilities and site works, and 15% is for fleet and equipment. So we have heard from the public loud and clear that roads and bridges is the main priority. 41% of this $127.5 million budget is dedicated to roads. On the next slide, you will see that we are significantly debenturing the assets or the capital budget this year, and we are doing so with a good methodology and a good long-term financial plan framework in mind. We are taking 30-year assets and extending them, the life of the repayment of that debt over the length of the assets. This helps us with the affordability, so does the lower interest rates that we're incurring at the moment. Development charges are paying for the growth component of the $19.4 million. Because we've been working hard under the long-term plan framework to build up the asset management reserve, we are pleased to advise that $18.7 million is coming from the city's own asset management reserve. So as we continue to build that reserve, we continue to self-fund the State of Good Repair capital budget. Again, we have some grants and other smaller amounts that comprise the remainder 25% of this capital financing. On page 25, we've just highlighted the top 12, slide 25. We've highlighted the top 12 projects that the city is undertaking this year. You'll find details of these 12 projects on page 23 of the budget book, and you'll find much more information. And again, if the public or council ever has any questions, we're happy to respond. State of Good Repair are the assets that we own, and those are in red. And you can see that there's a lot of more predominantly expansionary capital projects in this year's budget. On the next slide, I won't go through details of the programs other than to say on pages 40 to 78 of the budget book, both the hard copy and the one posted online, is where you will find all of the details of these capital programs. If we go through the slides to page 29, slide 29, this is where you'll see that the budget totals $127,596,000 from a capital perspective. We'll move on now to the special projects. So if you're following along in the budget book or online, we're on page 79 of the book, and you will find the details of special projects section. As indicated in the video, special projects were initiated in 2020, and their function is to incorporate any project that is greater than 1 year in time and yet does not result in an asset. Special projects typically include studies, plans, strategies, appeals, or any other operating initiative that is one-time in nature and again does not result in an asset under the Public Sector Accounting Board principles of accounting. In 2025, this budget transfers $3 million into the Special Projects Reserve, and that is predominantly how this budget is funded. On slide 32, some special project highlights are the redevelopment of the city websites, our ability to engage with the public. Solid waste environmental assessment is included in here. The city's 25th anniversary commemoration. Enterprise software and expansion in order to continue our financial modernization and provide tools out in the mobile areas for all staff. Flood hazard mapping are some examples. On slide 33, you will see the $3.5 million is funded from the city's own operating budget, and that transfer to Special Projects Reserve. And the total special projects summate to $5.3 million. On slide 34, you will just see that engineering and corporate assets are predominantly the projects of $2.8 million worth of the 5.3, with corporate services as 22% of this overall budget, and that reflects the IT modernization that is underway. On slide 35, you will see that 66% of this section of the budget is self-funded through the city's Special Projects Reserve. And finally, to end with the tax-supported budget, the biggest component of this budget. If you would turn to page 87 of the budget book, this is where the operating budget begins, and it ends on page 272. What we're trying to depict for you here is the growth in services from 2018 to 2025. Some of the colors have moved slightly. Legislative requirements come in that require a higher investment on the operating budget. Different programs are dictated through the province in order to be delivered. So we're just showing you here at a quick glance where some of those services have changed. We do offer over 200 services in our operating budget to the public. Therefore, it is the largest component of this budget. On slide 38, where do our tax dollars go? I'm sorry, I will head back to the operating budget overview, pardon me. So the operating budget relates to the 200 plus services and the day-to-day delivery of those provided by the municipality. As referred to earlier, our tax assessment projections for 2025 are to increase the tax revenues by 2.7%, strictly because of the growth occurring in the municipality. We've increased our supplemental tax revenue to $3 million from $2 million in 2024. We continue to support the long-term strategy to build up our reserves and formulate a way to become more self-sustainable. In preparation for growth, a commitment has been made to retaining, attracting, and expanding our talent base. In this budget, gross salaries, wages, and benefits are forecasted to be almost $110 million, which is 40% of the city's overall operating budget. And where do the tax dollars go? We use this in the budget book. We use it in the tax insert that goes out to the public. As you can see clearly, that emergency services and public works make up more than 50% of the city's budget, with contribution to capital and special projects having a large component, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the services that the city is delivering to the municipality in those 200 plus services that we render. This is a graph that depicts the long-term financial plan and where we had predicted the original 10-year financial plan compared to the amended 10-year plan, and how have we been landing. In 2020, we had a tax increase on the operating of 3.5, and from there forward in 2021, as a year of COVID, we self-restrained during that year, and it fell down just under the 1.5%. For 22, 23, 24, and for 25, we're well within the parameters of the 3%. This year, we're at just slightly over that at 3.2, but generally within the 2022 long-term financial plan allocation for the operating budget. I do want to note that the plan for 26 and 27, again, as mentioned, the long-term financial plan will be updated and brought to Council Q2 of 2025. And I would not anticipate that we would be recommending a 3% operating increase for those next 10 years. I won't spend too much time on this slide, other than to say that the city's anticipated debt to the end of 2024 to fund some of the capital projects that we have been completing over the last few years is at $138.5 million, and we still are in the works of completing some projects that will see an additional 39 previously approved in capital budgets for the tax, and 12 million for water, wastewater. You will notice, since you last saw this graph in the summer, I believe it was June, when we presented an update on the interim long-term financial plan, the Kawartha Lakes Haliburton housing debt has increased by $6 million, and this was for the affordable housing project on Hamilton Street in Lindsay. So again, we'll be debenturing over a long time period because that building will have a very long useful life of that asset. And we borrow from Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation on that particular project. So overall, 138 million. And what does this mean to the average residential taxpayer? On the next slide, you will see that the debt servicing ratio is a self-imposed ceiling parameter that the council imposed on the affordability of the operating budget. 10% was the affordable chosen amount for debt servicing. So how would we repay the debt through the principal and operating in our operating budgets? What this graph depicts, if nothing else, is showing you that with 17.3 million remaining debt servicing ratio, that accounts to available debt room of 300 million that you can still afford in your operating budget and be within the 10% parameters. We will do more work on the debt servicing ratio, and that would be included in the long-term financial plan update in Q2 of 2025. So again, the debt strategy is in progress, and we will bring it forward as part of the new updated long-term financial plan. The province prescribes that the city's maximum amount of debt payments to incur, called the annual repayment limit, the city has chosen again to set a ceiling and more rigor than what the province allows, and we've chosen a 10% debt servicing ratio. The city currently has $138 million in debt to support its roughly $4 billion of assets. So in the context of a private household, this would be equivalent of having a mortgage of $24,000 on a $700,000 property. Next slide, please, Sarah. This is a graph to show the growth in the operating budget from 2018 until present. And again, a lot of the growth that's been occurring in the last few years is necessitating the increased operating budget. But so too with the operating expenditures, so too do other forms of revenue, and our new tax assessment base come in on the revenue side. Also included in the city's operating budget, if you'll turn to page 289, if you're following along in your book, is the agencies, boards, and committees. The city funds these agencies, on the next slide please, Sarah, funds these agencies to the amount of $28.46 million. We fund the Kawartha Lakes Haliburton Housing, so i.e. the project we just referred to on Hamilton Street in Lindsay. A new housing development is in this year's capital budget for Fenelon Falls and Minden to produce 60 more units of affordable housing. We fund the Kawartha Lakes Police in this agencies, boards, and committee section of this budget to the tune of $12.3 million, and the City of Kawartha Lakes OPP of $9.5 million. The Kawartha Lakes Library is an independent board. The conservation authorities, 4 of them, all are included in this operating budget. The Kawartha Lakes Haliburton Pine Ridge District Health Unit is included in this budget for $2.5 million. And the smaller ones, the Kawartha Lakes Healthcare Initiative, the Lindsay Downtown BIA is both an expense and a revenue to the city, Victoria Order of Nurses Canada, Ontario, and therefore we arrive at $28.46 million to fund our community partners. The next slide at a glance, just to counterbalance the debt summary, is the financial health of our reserves. Again, this is just a bit of a forecasting to show that our reserves are being topped up, they are being utilized to fund our budgets, and the whole point, and pardon me, we're on page 304 of the budget book for those following along. The whole point of the reserves is to have a self-sustainable financial model for both our capital, special projects, and operating budgets. I would just highlight that while 41.47 on the top line is being utilized in the 2025 capital budget and balances to the 25 capital budget, in reality, it takes 2 to 3 years to complete a capital project, and so we wouldn't be drawing $41 million all in 1 year. That would be stretched out over the course of delivering that project. Next steps and what occurs after tonight and until November 26th deliberations. So again, to fit within the 30-day window of having posted the budget early November, Council is scheduled for budget deliberations November 26th to the 28th. The Mayor will walk through the Mayor's proposed budget at that Council meeting. Councillor amendments to the budget can be made in writing in advance of that November 26th meeting by November 19th, if you're aware of some of your requests for amendments. In order to aid you with your amendments, we will provide you with a template in order to drive some of the resolutions to add a project, remove a project, or amend a project. If you have any questions in regards, councillors, in terms of budget amendments, if you put them in writing to staff, Nadine Bloomfield, by November 19th, we will endeavor to get you all answers in order to help you complete that template for a requested amendment to the budget by November 22nd. The reason we're asking for all this to be in by November 22nd is so we have time to brief the Mayor on the Mayor's proposed budget. General questions can be forwarded at any time, and again, we would go through one point of contact, Nadine Bloomfield in Corporate Services, and we will circulate that to the appropriate staff. There will be no formal posting of answers. That will be the more informal component, but we will get you written answers where you are making a request to fill in a template for an actual amendment. The Mayor will review those that are submitted ahead of time, and we will be prepared for deliberations on the 26th, 27th, and 28th. If the public wishes to learn more about the 2025 budget, there's some videos coming soon to jump in, Kawartha Lakes, and you can learn the budget process overview, where does the money come from, how tax dollars are spent, coming soon, et cetera, et cetera. You can read through the rest of those, but we encourage the public to take some of those videos, ask questions through Jump In. We are more than happy to address any questions in order for November 26th, 27th, 28th to be as smooth as possible for this Strong Mayor's legislated budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Bokaboom. Very well done. And just, I would like to say thank you to the Budget Committee and to the finance staff and our asset management people for all their hard work in putting this budget together. I know it was a daunting task from where we started from, and the pressures, as you pointed out, particularly policing, and we know how important that policing is to people with the increased calls for service. Also, homelessness and encampments that the police are being asked to look after have impacted what they have to do, as well as provincial legislation that has changed what their roles are and what they have to do. And so we see those increases, and rather than keep dinging people for years and years, I think we chose to rip the bandage off and do a one-shot levy. I'm not happy about having 2 levies in 1 year, but I think this is probably the best strategy overall. And I think it's interesting to note that we have a number of new projects coming forward, including source-separated organics next year, which is going to be a benefit to our landfills because it will take up to 50% of the waste that is now going to landfills and will no longer go there. The investment in housing and in childcare, as well as being able to fund some of our agencies. We're going to hear from some of them tonight, the Boys and Girls Club, and we're also going to hear from the Art Gallery and I believe the Kawartha Lakes Museum. And even though we are stretched, we are still able to fund those folks so they can continue operating and bring the valuable services they do. So I'm very pleased to see that we were able to get the budget down with the levies under the 7%. And of course, we're not finished yet. We know that council's going to weigh in as well over 3 days, and we'll see where we end up at the end of that time. And so for now, if you don't mind, I'll see if council has any questions that pertain to your presentation. Council, any questions for Ms. Bogaboom on the presentation?
Yeah.
Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Bogaboom, thanks for the presentation. Just two quick questions. You mentioned the asset management reserves. Could you give an example of what, to the public and to us, how we contribute to the asset management reserve and what, where we derive the funds that go into that account, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great question, Councillor Ashmore. Included in the operating budget of almost $300 million, $272 million, there is a transfer to the asset management reserve of $17.4 million in this year's budget. We take that $17.4 million, we move it into a reserve, and we use that to fund next year's 2025 capital budget. Each year, with the dedicated the dedicated capital infrastructure levy of 1.5%, that gets added into the transfer to the asset management reserve as well. We still have a component of the transfer to that asset management reserve coming from the general levy, and it's anticipated over time we'll close that window so that the full asset management reserve is funded by the capital dedicated levy.
Okay, thanks. And the last question is, 2 councils ago, I think it was 2016, that we introduced I think it was $25 million debenture to help with the capital budget and the operating budget. Do you know would you know roughly what the balance of that is right now? And is that fund able to be topped up or to be utilized again, or is it basically as a secured line of credit for the city? That $25 million one-time loan that we took out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were a few questions in that, so forgive me if I don't have them all in the right order. The debt on the $25 million from 10 years ago or so is predominantly paid off now. We were not recommending moving forward into our long-term financial plan that we would debenture items unless they are debt debenture criteria eligible. So for instance, we would want the asset to last more than 10 years. We would want it to be growth related or expansionary. We are trying to increase the self-sustainability on our finances by using our asset management reserve for the smaller state of good repair type assets and only use debt to extend the debt over the life of an asset if it's truly a valid expense. So for instance, we would debenture a bridge that lasts 80 years, but we might not debenture a road that has an improvement of 7 or 8 years in it. So we're being very deliberate in how we allocate debt moving into our financial sustainability model. Does that answer your
fine.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Council changes and suggestions and stuff in writing, are they going to be made public, or are they going to be vetted by the mayor's budget, or how is that going to work out?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. To the councillor, I would direct you to slide 49 of the presentation tonight. If you would put in writing your request for an amendment, if known, in advance of November 19th. We would vet that with the mayor, and we would include any amendments on the November 26th council deliberation day. If you require assistance and need some information from staff, let me think of an example. you want to know if we could extend a certain amount of work on a road and you want to add another section. If you put that in writing to us, engineering would respond and tell you how much that additional section would be, and we could help you fill out that template for a resolution. So they will become public when we come forward to the November 26th deliberations date. Did that address your concerns, Councillor?
Yeah, I think the last part did, because when you first explained it, you said it'd be vetted by the mayor to see if it was included. So I was wondering if anything got lost to reporting to the public. So, you know, if I said I want to buy 25 jars of pickles and the mayor said that's ridiculous, would the public know that Councillor Yeo went off the deep end and said he wanted to buy pickles? Right. So does the public get to see all of that, or only the stuff vetted by the mayor as acceptable?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all amendments made by council will come forward on November 26th. We will brief the mayor, but they will still all come forward as part of the public agenda on November 26th, and then you will have opportunity to vote on those amendments. And then at the beginning of the presentation, I walk through the strong mayor's legislation, what happens if you make an amendment, what the mayor's legislated fiduciary responsibility is, and what council can then do after that. So there's a little bit of a long process, Councillor Yeo, but any amendment that you put in writing to city staff will be on the November 26th agenda.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Perry.
Thanks, thanks very much, Mayor, and thank you, Director Bukaboom, for your presentation. I certainly understand the amendment process, but to be able to upstream and decide whether we actually want to bring an amendment or not, how or what is the process for asking general questions about specific line items in the budget?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Perry. As indicated in my speaking notes, general questions can still be forwarded to staff through Nadine Bloomfield, the Executive Assistant in Corporate Services, who will aid in distributing those questions to pertinent staff, and you would be advised through email of answers to any general questions.
Okay, thank you. I did find that a little confusing then. The questions do not have to be within the context of drafting a memo, rather an amendment pursuant to the template. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm recommending that we have two different types of questions. One would be a formal amendment to the budget, and that would follow a very formal process. The other category is just general questions any member of council is quite welcome to put in email, and Nadine Bloomfield will help us search out the appropriate staff, and will respond to you in as expedient a manner as possible.
Also,
thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I'm glad that we confirmed that there are indeed two streams. Thank you.
And on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, you'll be able to ask questions on the budget as well. Councillor Warren.
So just on that, through you, Mr. Mayor, if we're asking questions on those days, will we also be able to make amendments? Because if those questions actually bring forward something you'd like to change, will that be heard, or is that a possibility on those days?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I see a theme here to next steps. Yes, absolutely, Councillor Warren. Amendments can be made on the 26th, 27th, 28th as we're deliberating the various budgets. We were simply here stating that if you had a formal amendment, and if known in advance, we would work with you to help comprise that resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, can I have a motion to receive the presentation by Ms. Bukaboom? Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Yeo. All in favor? And that's passed. We'll now move on in our agenda, and the next item is presentations regarding the proposed 2025 budget for the City of Kawartha Lakes. And first up, We have the Kawartha Lakes Art Gallery, and I believe Susan Taylor, is she online? Okay, she'll be here presently. Ms. Taylor, nice to see you. Press the button at the bottom. There you go.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor. It's nice to see you all. I appreciate the opportunity to attend this evening and provide you with an update as to what the gallery's been up to. The gallery now has a revised timeline for moving into 19 Cambridge Street by early summer 2025. We've used the city's 2024 investment to invest in being able to continue the staff positions that were in place, with staff focusing on developing the groundwork for our growth. The hiring or the continuing of the staff positions, they're all part-time positions, has realized the opportunity for the gallery to do a full review and updating of all our policies and procedures, as well as support future development of the gallery's community cultural programming. We've worked closely with other interested Lindsay organizations to form a Lindsay Specials Event Committee that will work to launch an annual sustainable cultural event. We applied to Ontario Trillium Foundation for funding to support moving the 2 part-time positions into full-time positions. We applied to the Lindsay Legacy Chess Fund for outside and inside building elements for 19 Cambridge to ensure that when we do move in, we'll be fully operational. The gallery is seeing a higher than expected level of donation support and has developed a fundraising campaign that will celebrate the gallery's new home in 2025 and our 50th anniversary in 2026. Any accumulated surplus the gallery will have this year will be held in an account to help pay for rent next year and any additional move-in expenses. Overall, the gallery is already seeing a growth in interest and support since the announcement of city support and the move into 19 Cambridge. Finally, I wanted to speak to Roma. In talking with senior staff, the gallery had expressed an interest in attending the Roma conference in January. The reason for that is I've had the good fortune to be able to attend council, and each time I learn something. I learn about the challenges that our municipality faces, and in all sincerity, I support the job that our council is doing. I felt it was important to share that, and I've always admired the advocacy platform that Roma provides, and I reached out to our zone rep, Pam Swain, and shared my thoughts with her. She suggested that we apply she liked the idea of us attending. And the message being that I wanted to draw attention to what our municipality is doing to support its cultural organizations, and to also draw attention to what I feel our provincial and federal representatives could be doing a better job of in supporting their municipalities, especially with the amount of growth that we're experiencing. So I submitted an application as I was directed to. Councillor Pam provided a letter of support, and we were approved to attend Roma. I'm not sure what that means, but I will work to let you all know. CAO Taylor and I will be meeting. I have an email into Pam Swain to define how she sees us attending. in January. And that's pretty much all the update I have.
It's very good, thank you. Stay tuned, I'll see if there's any questions for you. Is there any questions for Ms. Taylor on her presentation? Seeing none, thank you for coming tonight, and continued success. I'm sure you're enjoying your new space.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
But, we are enjoying the plotting and planning. And in all sincerity, we wouldn't be where we are without your support. So thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Councillor Richardson.
Just that intrigued me to one question. Thanks very much for the presentation, and everything that you're telling us is good news. And even, moving to that step at Roma, clearly, for them accepting you is you're trailblazing. You're setting some monumental municipality partnerships, and I think that's what's being recognized there. You did mention the Lindsay Special Events Committee, which sounds very intriguing. Is that encompassing a bunch of other local groups like yourself, or who's in that? Just so we have a better education of where you're moving.
Around the table is the Chamber of Commerce, the BIA, the Pie-Eyed Monk, the Academy Theatre, and the Gallery, as well as Wesley Found. We're looking to, after having an opportunity to speak with Councillor Dan Joyce, and he shared some insights with us, also in having an opportunity to connect with Garnet Bryden, who had a special events committee in place for a number of years ago when Homecoming used to roll out down the streets of Kent Street. And we've just had our first meeting in early November, and we're looking to plan an annual event, but looking to make it a sustainable event, maybe to start off with a small model that we can grow each year. Bobcaygeon and Fenland provide really excellent examples of how to do it. We want Lindsay to be on the page as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, through you to Susan, and thanks for coming and all the work you've done for the art gallery, and the building certainly transformed. It's certainly nice to see that building at 19 Cambridge Street come alive, and the amount of work that you're putting into it. That's great, and it's glad that you'll be at Roma. I'll be at Roma next month, or in January rather, and it's a great conference to touch base with just about every type of organization you could ever think of. So it's great to be that you're going there.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion to receive the presentation by Councillor Perry, Councillor Joyce. All in favor? And that's passed. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is for the Boys and Girls Club, and I think Ms. O'Connell has gone to bring in the presenters. I hope you're all paying attention. There'll be a test later on these numbers. So welcome. We have Carly Veach and Neil Whitehead, whenever you're ready.
Excellent, thank you. Hello, everybody. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councilors. I'll come a little closer. Thank you so much for having us here to present tonight. I'm Carly Veach, the Manager of Youth and Support Services at BGC Kawarthas. But more importantly, this is Neo Whitehead, a member of our youth center, and they are going to start off our presentation.
Right.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having us this evening. My name is Neo and I'm a youth from the Warehouse Youth Center, as Carly stated. If you don't know what the Warehouse is exactly, it's a safe place where youth aged 12 to 17 can come after school. And the Warehouse offers many activities for youth to get engaged with, such as cooking, rock climbing, a queer youth program, a gym partnership with Planet Fitness, and many more opportunities for youth to just be an active part of their community. The Warehouse has been open for 11 years now, and it's started to open up on Friday evenings for events and on Saturdays so that the youth can have a safe environment to hang out at over the weekends. And I've been involved with the Warehouse for about 3 years now, and my day-to-day experience with the Warehouse has looked like coming there, meeting up with friends, checking out what activities they have going on, since there's always some sort of thing. That's very awesome. And sometimes I even stay for a dinner program and get to help out with that. I'm also a member of the Youth Council, which gives young members of the community the chance to plan initiatives, connect with like-minded individuals who want to make a positive impact, and volunteer within the community. I can see we have a few members coming in to watch tonight. I thank you guys so much for coming to support. My favorite part of the Warehouse is the sense of community it provides. It's a really great place to socialize, get active, and even earn community hours for high school. It's a place that really feels safe and accepting. The people who work here are fantastic, and the people who go here they're just as good. It's a great place to get resources ranging from help with school, access to computers and instruments, and just people to reach out to if you need to talk. Overall, the Warehouse Youth Center is a lovely place. I'd just like to thank you guys again so much for giving us the floor here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neo. Neo can speak better to our youth center than anyone, but I'm going to speak a little bit to the funding that we've received this past year. So in the last school year, we served over 420 unique youth in our youth center, not including those who just come by to skateboard or play basketball. With funding support from the city, we were able to expand our services. As Neo mentioned, we were able to open up on Friday evenings and Saturdays. We hosted special events and workshops for over 200 youth and their families. And we were able to run drop-in over the summer, which we really haven't been able to do in the past, which offered continuous supports to youth and anyone who was just looking for something during that time. We also hosted some special events and workshops. And you can see a lot of detail in the report we submitted, but I just wanted to highlight a few of those, including our Family Day drop-in event, where we allowed youth to bring whoever they defined as family, show them around the space and get engaged in some activities. We hosted a summer bonfire with over 60 youth participating. We had a teen wellness fair that included a number of other youth-serving agencies, and we were present at Pride in the Park in Fenland, where we had a booth and connected with some new youth. We also hosted several workshops and invited local guest speakers to offer their expertise to our teens. While we did anticipate a few positive outcomes from this additional funding, we were really amazed at the benefits experienced by youth as a result of our additional programs and services. We have been able to engage a lot of teens with elevated risk and support them with skill development, engagement, and overall wellness. We've also been able to start implementing components of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan related specifically to service navigation, expanded services, and community collaboration. So what's next for us? We are requesting funding in order to continue with the expanded services for youth to drop into our programs in Lindsay. We'd like to continue that operation. In addition, we are striving to work with the school boards to better support youth who are struggling with school. As I'm sure you all know, school absenteeism has become a really significant issue. So we're looking at alternative education supports in collaboration with both our public and Catholic school board. And we would like to prioritize youth in Fenelon Falls, starting with targeted prevention programming. We're in Langton before the end of this year in December to try and launch some targeted prevention programming focused on anti-bullying. We'd also like to work with some of our youth who have expressed a need to build up a queer youth program in Fenelon. And ultimately, we would like a drop-in center in Fenelon Falls for young people, as there are not a lot of services for youth. So as we work to secure stable funding from Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario and the Ministry of Health, we really rely on and appreciate support from our local municipality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just if you stay there for a few minutes and I'll see if there's any questions for you. Council, any questions for the folks from the Boys and Girls Club? And I'll note that the director, Amy Terrell, is sitting in our audience as well. Councillor Joyce.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through your great presentation, thank you. The $100,000 request, is that to support those three pillars right there?
Yes, yeah. So it's to build, continue with the services that we were able to offer with that funding and then add those additional components.
Without that funding, those three pillars won't happen?
No.
Okay. And you mentioned a drop-in center in Fenelon Falls. Have you got a property in mind already, or?
We have been working, there's the co-op, Kawartha Co-op we've been working with to try, and we've been looking at various properties. We have some interim solutions, even using the school temporarily, just meeting youth where they're at. So we're gonna ease into that, but would like ultimately to have a property. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
We spent a morning going around Fenelon Falls with the folks from the Boys and Girls Club and with the co-op people, as well as people from Parks and Rec, looking at various venues in Fenelon. And I will point out there is money in the budget, not only for the Boys and Girls Club, but for the art gallery, and also for the next presentation, which is the museum. So there is money in the budget for those three agencies. And see if there are more questions here. Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Carly and Neo. Thanks for coming. One of the great things about this, the BGC, is I live outside of a little town, Dunsford, and west of Dunsford, and then the BGC is set up there. And you'll be continuing to go to these smaller villages? Will you still support them?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We don't have youth services in Dunsford right now, but we're looking to try and grow and take those services to youth in rural communities as well.
That's great, because people are starting to realize that it's all over Kawartha Lakes. It's not just Lindsay centrally located, which is really important, but you're getting out to the smaller communities, which is great. Thanks.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much, Carly, and great job, Neo. Thank you again for all the great works that BGL does for, the club does for us and our young people here in Kawartha Lakes. Just to build on actually Councillor Ashmore's point, just a point of clarity. As a proud alumnus of Fenelon Falls Secondary School, the idea and the project of the drop-in center for young people, my understanding is that while it would be housed in Fenelon, it would be a drop-in center for students who live in Norland, Kobe, Cameron, Bobcaygeon, so wards 1 and 2 as well, given it would be an after-school drop-in for FFS students, correct?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Perry. We did have this discussion initially that we can't operate youth services in Fenelon Falls without transportation. So that's going to be a key feature of what we can offer, transportation to our youth center and home as well, because of the nature of how our community is set up.
Great, thanks for that. Appreciate it. And again, great job.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, can I get a motion to receive the presentation from the Boys and Girls Club? Councillor Warren, Councillor Ashmore. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having us.
As I said, our next speaker is Barbara Doyle from the Kawartha Lakes Museum, and Miss O'Connell will get her. Thank you, folks, for coming tonight as well. Appreciate it. Welcome, Ms. Doyle. It's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Mayor Elmsley and to Council. I'm so thrilled to be here today. Oh, that's not the right slide deck. There's a whole PowerPoint. Is it? I sent you 2 files. That's not the right one. Sorry. While we're waiting for that, I can just continue with my thank you to all of city staff, the ECDev staff, CAO Taylor that we've met with a lot. Alex Welch and his team from Building and Property have been amazing. We could not do everything that we do without the support of every level of the city staff and council. So I appreciate that.
Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Okay. It won't be the same without the photos, but we'll go with it. So I'm Barbara Doyle. I'm from the Kawartha Lakes Museum and Archives. Oh, there we go. Perfect. For those of you that are not, maybe, can I get it to go? There we go. For those of you that are not familiar, we are housed at the Old Jail Building at 50 Victoria. It's an amazing museum, and we would like you all to come visit. I wanted to revisit a little bit about what we were able to do with council's support in the 2024 budget. So we were in receipt of $125,000, which was 50% of our request. And with that, it directly funded 2 full-time positions. Myself and our archivist, Zach Miller, were funded for 8 months. And this provided an opportunity for us to hire 12 additional contract positions under a variety of grants. And that is an amazing amount of employment in the heritage sector in CKL. People are really at the heart of our organization. And what these people have been able to do in the past year has been incredible. But going into, and I'll talk about that in a second, but going into 2025, our ask for the city this year is $400,000 for operational funding and to be added to the CKL budget line, much like the library going forward, so that we can be assured of sustainable staffing, the ability to plan and execute multi-year projects, and push forward our capital build project, while fostering deep and enduring relationships with Indigenous communities, local organizations, businesses, and schools, creating connections between the history that we have and local relevance. We're going to talk about projects, metrics, impact, and growth, the economic benefits to the community, and the strength and commitment by CKL to invest in heritage and culture organizations as a part of the overall economic and development strategy. And also about how investing in preservation and sharing local history gives the utmost respect to our community members, what they have done, who they are, and how they have built and shaped our community for generations in the past, but also for the future. So we've done a number of things. Museums, of course, everybody expects new exhibits. So we do traditional in-person exhibits, virtual exhibits, and traveling exhibits. And this is a little bit of a slideshow just showing you a little bit about what we've done in the past year. Forest to Farm, the McRae models meet their match. I'm going to go really quick through these. The Legacy, the Tracks, the Charlie Hills photograph collection, and showcasing his absolute love for the railway. Subverse, the life and poetry of Edward A. Lacey. He is acknowledged as Canada's first published gay poet, and he was a Lindsay man. Absolutely fascinating life story, and I hope that everybody comes in to see it. We also have virtual exhibits. Getting national grants, actually having federally recognized stories of importance for CKL to be able to get funding for these kinds of grants has been amazing. The Art of Collecting is about the Laidlaw sisters' china and glass collection, who they were and how they collected. Our history through the Lindsay Daily Post. This is not only an online exhibit about the Post, but it also has a digital archives component as well, which I'll talk about in a second. We created an in-station exhibit for the Kawartha Lakes Police Service, showcasing the history of policing in Lindsay. And this was at the launch event of the Lindsay Daily Post exhibit back in March. And also photographs, the Alan Capon collection of approximately 4,000 images were digitized as part of this collection. And we created, part of the online exhibit is that, but also we created a traveling exhibit about it as well. And we created a traveling exhibit about the Lindsay Daily Post history as well. So I really want to highlight this project. We were able to receive almost $120,000 federal dollars through the Museum Assistance Program, Digital Access to Heritage Stream. Provided for 2 full-time staff for the full year, and we were able to digitize more than 75 years of the Lindsay Daily Post collection. We were able to put that collection online and make it publicly available for free. To date, there have been more than 45,000 searches of that collection, our collection. And we've heard so many stories about how being able to search our local history has deeply impacted individuals in our community, both locally and from quite a distance. We get emails all the time. It's been such an important opportunity for us to be able to take such a large collection that we have that has been sitting kind of under wraps and make it available to the public. For research, for just general interest. I know that some of you in the room have actually searched through the papers and found deep connections. So continuing that kind of work is really important to us, but it takes staff. We were at the International Plowing Match and created a bespoke heritage quilt exhibit with a bed turning presentation daily. We saw more than 2,000 people interact directly with the exhibit. We did a presentation and exhibit at the Sturgeon Point Church for their anniversary celebration. Zach Miller created a wonderful exhibit on the history of Sturgeon Point. And we've done a number of community and outreach events this year. We did a heritage fair in February. We did Pride at Finland Falls and Lindsay, and all of the different places and things that you've seen here. And I'm just going to quickly kind of just breeze through them so you can kind of get a sense of some of the big scale of things that we do. Hosting local authors has been a really big thing for us. We actually just this past Saturday, we had Ruth Abernathy, who's a renowned sculptor and originally from Lindsay, come and launch her new book. We speak to genealogy groups, we do workshops with the city, and supporting our Legion is very important to us as well. This year, we supported the world record attempt for the 100th anniversary of the RCAF by lighting our exhibits blue and our building blue. We have also been able to receive a very distinguished award this month. We received the Dorothy Duncan Award from the Ontario Historical Society for our exhibit 14 to 18 Kent Street East, the Old Mill. And this exhibit was in our building in 3 evolutions, and then we brought it back together as one big exhibit for the Lindsay exhibition last fall. So it's wonderful to be recognized by our peers. This is a little bit about what the exhibit looked like. Everybody remembers what the property looks like now, but not everybody knows what it used to look like. Even out in public, we are hearing from people who connected with that exhibit in a variety of forms, and they're still thinking about it. So we're very pleased to be able to receive that award. We work with local organizations in collaboration. We have the Blue Glass collection from James Shields on loan from the Beaverton Thorough Eldon Historical Society. We did a promotional collaboration with Kent Bookstore. We supported the LAS Ambassador Program. We do wonderful events with the District Chamber of Commerce, and we had the mayor last week, or 2 weeks ago. We support local businesses when we do our catering and partnerships to keep money local. And we did a bike share program with the Chamber of Commerce to really promote active transportation. Those are just kind of a few of the highlights of what we've been able to do this year. So I'm hoping that council will be really pleased with how far we were able to, make the investment go. But for metrics, I know we want to talk about, what we did in the nuts and bolts of everything. Right now, our regular admission count, as of the end of October, is down 9%, but we still have 2 months to go, and that's against all of the previous year. 41% of our visitors are from outside CKL or have just moved here or are just moving here. 28% of our visitors are children or youth under the age of 18. We've held 15 museum events to the end of October, which was up 20% over last year. And our event attendance was 9,001 people. That's direct interaction, not just people walking by, which was 413% over 2023. I'm very, very proud of that. Our retail gift shops are down 1.5%, but we still have 2 months to go. And our digital engagement reach was up over 1,000% from the previous year. This was due to a very dedicated improvement plan to improve all of our social media and website engagement. Internet Archives newspaper searches was over 45,000. We also created 6 episodes for Kawarthas Untold Stories, a show for Your TV and Cogeco, and I've been told it's their #1 watch after live sports. We hope to do more in the future. We've had over 1,500 volunteer hours. We've placed a secondary school co-op student and a post-secondary practicum, and we're available for case studies and placements all the time for post-secondary. We work with VCCS for job training opportunities, and we've had 2 placements this past year. And we do a lot of community organization engagement and mentoring programs. For collection metrics, because what's a museum without its collection? This year we modified over 11,000 historical records. That's for items that were here before 2024. But in 2024, from new accessions, we accessioned 11,069 new objects, 3,040 photographs, 1,233 documents, 55 books, and 2.54 meters of textual records. And that's just what we've been able to process from this year's donations. That's not everything we've received. And some of the other major collections still mid-process, so they aren't added to the count, are the Thomas Stewart collection from Sturgeon Point, the Rumney Hunt collection from Cobeconk, the Oscar Irwin collection from Ontario Parks, Dale Kennedy Fawn, the Victoria County Plowman's collection, Betty Wakeford's Fawn, Robert Kingsborough Fawns, and more. What this doesn't reflect are the many hours spent speaking with community members to learn about their local history, the many research requests, the building of relationships with Indigenous communities, local organizations, businesses, and the schools, creating that connection between the history and local relevance. We tell the untold stories of Kawartha Lakes, but first we need to know what they are. And our dedication to our mission must be matched by operational support. Our largest risk and blockade to sustainable growth is funding that is not certain. Contract staff must be managed. The investment of support from the city on a consistent basis will support the growth that we need to do at this time, continuing to care for donor relationships, and all of the things that we do in our building each year to keep growing, getting to where we need to be for the community that we have now, but also that's coming. So for our 2025 budget, we are looking at a proposed budget of 1.2 and some change. We're asking for an investment by the city of $400,000. Of our total budget, $781,000 is proposed for wages. That will be core staff and about 20 additional contract staff. Looking at our exhibit development and educational programs for $191,000, conservation supplies of $84,000, admin, et cetera, $145,000, and then fundraising and marketing at $35,000. So what this means is that we are looking to invest the $400,000 for core staff that will be able to stay with us year after year, be able to build those relationships, continue the projects. Operational support to create that team that will support the mandates of the museum for collections management, curation, education and content development and outreach, and continuing to build on the work that we have been doing so well. This support would, support by the city would help us meet the opportunity to raise the additional $844,000 for that budget, and do all of the gains that we have planned for the coming year, including working towards our capital build project and the larger funding portion that's not included in this budget. In terms of economics, the CKL investment of $400,000 would equate to $4.68 million, and our overall proposed budget would equate to $14.5 million in economic benefits to the businesses in CKL by extension, using the equation of $1 invested in local heritage, like buildings like ours, means $11.70 to the for-profit businesses in the city. So that's money that circulates within our city. It's tourism dollars that come in. It's the overall economic benefit of those investments. And I'm sure that you probably have some questions.
Thank you. As I said to the other two presenters, there is money in the budget for the museum this year. I'm not sure that it will match your aspirations, but I'll also point out that there is capital work to be done on the campus around the museum and City Hall that you will benefit from undoubtedly. But let's see if there's any questions for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Joyce?
Thank you. Through you, the passion really comes through. Thank you. It's amazing, and I really like how you don't just sit in your museum and do these great exhibits. You go out to the community and wave the flag, and I think that's vital. That's important. So good work there. Two questions, is the $400,000 ask. If that were to happen, so next year would be $400,000 plus 3%, or would it jump up? Like, is that what you see where I'm going with that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Actually, no, we could see $400,000 being a good sustainable funding for the next 3 to 5 years without increase, because we would put people under contract and build for that growth in our project planning. But also, when we're able to have people in their positions doing the work that they need to do, it also frees me up a little bit to do more fundraising, because right now I'm kind of stuck. I don't always get as much opportunity to do the fundraising work that I need to do with individual donors, with foundations, because it takes a lot of time investment. You can't really raise the money overnight. Sometimes working with an investor or a foundation or an individual can take several years of relationship building before a big donation comes through. And that's the work that we've been doing ongoing. We have been working with several foundations now that are looking to support our capital build, but raising money for core staff is the hardest thing we've been able to come across. So we do see the $400,000 being a good set rate for the next several years.
Thank you. And the $1 invested for 1170, where does that metric come from?
I can tell you exactly where that metric comes from. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. So the 1170 metric citation. So this number is pulled from the CKL 2020-2030 Cultural Master Plan, section 4.4. The citation of the original document is from Ontario's Entertainment and Creative Cluster, a framework for growth, Ontario Ministry of Tourism and Culture, 2010. It's actually quite an outdated number. The number actually would be quite higher now.
I think that's called hoisted on your own petard.
Yep, thank you.
I like
no
metrics.
further questions.
Councillor Richardson.
I think you just met your match in metrics. Through you, I thought it was a great presentation. It shows your enthusiasm. It shows what you're doing in the community. What was your revenue for this past year? Do you have a...
I think our budget was close to $800,000 this year.
And those grants that you received, like that museum assistant program, yes, is that one that you can apply for on a yearly basis?
So the Digital Access to Heritage was a pilot project, but we were invited to a roundtable with the government agency to speak to the continued funding from the federal government for that program. Our project was actually named the most successful project that they funded through that stream, which was very gratifying. We've actually done consultations with, I think, 8 or 9 other museums in helping them duplicate the project because ours was so successful. We work with Museum Assistance Program in a variety of streams. We do the Collections Management Program, the Access to Heritage Program, the there's one for traveling exhibits, to bring traveling exhibits in as well. We'll be working with them in 2026 for an exhibit that's coming to us. So that's just one set of funding that's available to museums. We've been applying for basically everything under the sun that makes sense. We have also in 2025, in our upcoming budget, we have some other funding that I'm under embargo. I can't really openly say what it is, but I'm happy to give you a paper copy after the meeting. So we do have quite big expectations for 2025 going forward.
And that's where I was leading, is the success of these other exhibits that you have put on and the recognition. Does that not like build you up in a level where you can apply for other grants as well because of that success?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Absolutely. One of the biggest things that we've been noticing is the success of our rebrand, the transitioning, to a fully Category 8 museum that we are now, that we're recognized as now, has been incredibly successful. We are getting more of the grants that we're applying for. We recently just were awarded a $90,000 tourism grant through FedDev that will help us create and deliver 4 signature tourism events throughout the year, so going into all the way till fall in 2025, which is designed to help bring more tourism, but also create the capital funding to build those programs so that we can deliver them year after year. So things like that, the more that we do, the more successful that we seem to be.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, could I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Perry. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you very much for coming today. We'll move on to item 6, which is deputations regarding the proposed 2025 budget for the city. Right now, we have 2 folks signed up to speak. You get 5 minutes, as is usual. First speaker is Mr. Doug Shaw. If you'd like to come to the podium at the back. Councillor Joyce, would you turn off that mic, please? You're here, Mr. Shaw, to talk about the 2025 budget?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
As you know, excuse me. Thank you for being able to speak tonight. Mr. Mayor, members of staff, councillors, and people of the public. We asked 8 questions back in 2024, the early part of 2024. I'm with Kawartha Lakes Taxpayers Association. I talk to the public every day. I'm also a farmer. I'm on a fixed budget. When I lock in, that's what I lock in at. We asked these questions. We expected an answer because councillors, mayor, staff work for us. You're our employees. I don't think you understand that. And that will be taken to court. You will understand that you represent us. That's coming up very soon. Who has the authority in the city of Kawartha Lakes to operate? Is it the public who pays you people, or is it you people? That will come tomorrow, actually, in court. You're looking at a 10% increase in taxes for this year. Now, there's a lot of people that are on fixed incomes. There are people that work for government that have a situation where they're on an indexed income. In other words, the cost of living is increased every year for them because they work for government. There's people there that are not so fortunate. There are people on fixed incomes that were on, minimum wage, that still live in the city of Kawartha Lakes. they live in rental homes, or they live in their own home. And I talk to these people every day because I am a representative of Kawartha Lakes Taxpayers Association. I represent the public in a private sector way. The people are sick and tired of looking at tax increases for nothing. We asked you where the hundreds of millions of dollars have gone since 2020 or 2001. When we were a situation where we were amalgamated and it was supposed to be a better system. Now, I've already gone through that system down in Markham, in York Region. Never worked down there, and it's not working up here. When I came here, I've always been proud of my farm. The grass was cut on the sides of the roads. The weeds were cut on the sides of the roads. The people were proud of what they did within their de-amalgamated areas. And here we are, we've got a total mess. I've got a situation north of the jail, north of my farm, that blows weeds on my farm every year. And eventually I'm going to challenge it in court. Because you know what? I've told bylaw many times. And they ignore it. They say they're not noxious weeds. Well, take a look at it. When it blows over on people's fields, we have to put more spray. We have to put more work into our fields. We have to do more to try and make a living. And then you people do nothing. You people are up on charges right now. 13 private prosecution charges. Every one of you in here. And that's coming very soon. Because we asked you where the hundreds of millions of dollars have gone, and that's from the taxpayer. That's not from me, Mr. Doug Shaw, okay, that farms for a living and tries to make out a living. No, that's from the taxpayer. The taxpayer that gets water increases, and says, well, how come? How come we've got the most expensive water system in all of Ontario? How come the people are being charged for services not rendered, which will come to court very soon? Maybe if you have a few minutes, you could look at www.ontario.ca, charges and services. It says you cannot charge for a service not rendered. You have charged thousands of dollars to people for services not rendered.
I get you to wrap up.
I'd also like to say that Kawartha Lakes Taxpayers Association is demanding, and this is from the public, a zero increase in taxes for 2024. Until you show that you are accountable to the public in court and that you spend taxpayers' money wisely, which you have not done in previous. The hundreds of millions of dollars have disappeared foolishly in the city of Kawartha Lakes. Public people take vehicles home that are public assets. The public demands that this stops.
Would you wrap up, please?
Yes, I will. We'd also like to find out, or I'd like to also say that Wesley Wark, who has been following us around the city of Kawartha Lakes as Kawartha Lee, we found out that he was a Kawartha Lakes employee. Interesting. He will also be taken to court. Thank you very much for the time. I very much appreciate it.
You want to stay there in case there are any questions for you?
And the public would like to thank you as well.
Are there any questions for Mr. Shaw? Seeing none, could I have a motion to receive the deputation? Ask a second time, motion to receive the deputation. Councillor Ashmore. Is there a seconder? Seeing none, thank you for coming tonight.
I would like to thank the councillors for listening to me, especially the water situation, because that will be coming up to court very soon.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Nancy Byer. Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I might be shorter, but that's okay. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak. I want to thank you, Sarah, for a great presentation on the budget. I came here tonight for one purpose. I got information about a press release that said that the council was going to put another $100,000 towards the feasibility plan for a cultural center, a project that began in the city of Kawartha Lakes apparently in 2015 and has continued to have attention paid to it. I think that things have changed since 2015. I think maybe we have other priorities than building a cultural center. And so I just wanted to make that clear to the members of council that when people are unhoused and winter is coming, and when children are not fed, then they have to go to the food bank, maybe our $100,000 could be better spent. The other thing I did want to ask was the budget that included the agencies, boards, and committees. Those budgets have been accepted by council as they were laid out in the presentation?
They haven't been approved by council as yet.
Okay. That was pretty much my presentation.
Thank you. I'll see if there are any questions for you, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor, are there any questions for Ms. Byer? No, seeing none. Could I have a motion to accept the presentation from Ms. Byer? Deputy Mayor McDonald and Councillor Yeo. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank
and
you.
your comments will go to budget deliberations.
I fully expect that.
Okay? Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to receiving correspondence. And we have correspondence from Mr. Chris Appleton, and I need a motion that the correspondence regarding the mayor's proposed budget for the city of Kawartha Lakes for 2025 be received. Councillor Ashmore and Councillor Perry. All in favor? And that correspondence will be forwarded to the council deliberations. So that brings us towards the end, and I'd just like to say thank you to those folks who showed up tonight, and thank you to the folks who are online. And I really think that the budget as it's been presented in a very tough budget year, and we are funding not only infrastructure such as roads and bridges that people need and want to have done, we're also putting resources into our emergency services, healthcare and welfare, arts and culture organizations, and community groups as well. I think it's a budget that touches a lot of bases. We're able to do this, to keep our community healthy Can we do everything for everybody? No, we can't. And I know that the pressures are on every day to do more and more and to spend more and more on various things. And I think we've tempered that, and sitting at the 6.9 with the 2.2 for police services and 1.5 for infrastructure. As Ms. Bokaboom pointed out, the actual budget increase is 3.2%. I think that's outstanding, given the pressures that we were under. And I know that council is going to deliberate carefully, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that number change. And we'll see where we go with it. This, of course, is our first kick at the can under a full year of the new budget process. And again, I want to thank the Budget Committee and staff and the finance folks and asset management folks, engineering and public works, and all of the other directorates that have fed into this budget. I think we've done an outstanding job. So thanks very much, and I'm looking for confirming bylaw. Bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of council of November 12th, 2024. Motion, Councillor Joyce, Councillor Perry, all in favor? Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Yeo, Deputy Mayor McDonald, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight.